Richard Sepolio, the Navy sailor involved in a deadly crash off the Coronado Bridge, has been found guilty of vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated.
So in 2016, Richard Sepolio crashed off the Coronado Bridge down onto Chicano Park. 4 people were killed. 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala has been tracking this trial for several weeks now. She joins us live from downtown with how this played out in court. Mimi.
Yeah, Virginia, Jason, a jury found Sepolio guilty on 4 counts of vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated and 1 count of DUI causing injury. Here's a look from inside the courtroom.
We also find true that the defendant proximately caused bodily injury or death to more than one victim in violation of Section 23558.
And Sepolio was charged with 13 felony counts, many with special allegations as well. 6 of those counts related to alcohol, while 7 were for reckless driving. He was found not guilty on all of the reckless driving charges, but he was found guilty of vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated and not guilty of gross vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, which were the most serious charges. Through the case, prosecutors made the argument that Sepolio was driving drunk and recklessly on October 15, 2016, when he lost control of his truck and flew over the Coronado Bridge, landing on top of a crowd in Chicano Park and killing 2 married couples, Cruz and Ana Marie Contreras, and Andre Banks and Francine Jimenez. Sepolio did have drinks earlier that day with a friend, but his defense attorney claimed he was not drunk, and instead another driver would not let him make a lane change, causing him to lose control, crash, and fly off the bridge, which did not have proper barriers. The jury reached the verdict on Monday, but it was read this morning to give family members traveling from out of town enough time to get here. The sister of one of those victims spoke to us after the verdict was read about the loss her family has suffered and how she's feeling now.
We'll never see him again, but he will see his family again. We don't get that opportunity because he took that away from us. And I'm glad there is justice in the court. I'm glad.
Now, Sepolio was originally facing up to 23 years and 8 months if he was found guilty on all of those charges. Now he could be spending up to 18 years. His sentencing is scheduled for April 2nd. He was immediately taken into custody and bail was denied. We're live downtown. Mimi Alcala, 10 News.
Thank you, Mimi. We are still sorting out what could come next after this long trial. And to help answer some of the questions we have here, we've brought in Elida Vaughn, who you're a lawyer, you're a writer, you've been in the courtroom the entire time. And one of the hurdles for prosecutors here was proving that he was intoxicated. Why was it difficult, or was it not?
Well, in this case, they have a standard of the legal limit of being 0.08.
Yeah.
And so they obviously did not make that because the jury decided that he was not 0.08 and he was acquitted of that charge. But the big issue is that you can still be found guilty if you're under the influence of alcohol for driving purposes, and you don't need a specific number for that. And so that was the hard part in this case, because the prosecution brought in experts that said everybody's impaired at 0.05 for purposes of driving. And the defense experts said, I don't agree with that, and that's not the consensus. And alcohol affects people differently, so we can't say who's impaired at what level. And so that was the hardest issue, I think, for the prosecution in this case. And you had the defense also saying that manifestations of alcohol couldn't be found in this case anyway because Richard Sepolio was so severely injured in that crash off the Coronado Bridge.
So that was really a sticking point, was
yes.
Because 0.08 is the legal limit. Right. When they took his blood alcohol level, it was 0.05, and trying to figure out, because it would be a more severe charge and punishment if he was in fact found guilty of being at that legal limit or more.
No, in fact, he can still be found guilty with the 0.08 or the being under the influence. And that was the issue here. The gross vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, you can find that whether you're at 0.08 or whether you're under the influence. So the jury in this case said, we don't find that he's 0.08, but we do find that he's under the influence. So they found that he was guilty, not of the gross vehicular manslaughter, but of the vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, but with ordinary negligence. And one of the jurors did talk after the verdict and said the reason why they didn't go with the gross negligence is because they didn't believe that he had that specific intent to act recklessly because of the alcohol.
All right, Elida Vaughn, thank you for your expertise. You were in the courtroom every single day.
Yes.
And we'll be talking to you again. Thank you very much for being here.
Okay,
all right.
thank you.